Okay, this is our last lesson for today, but so far we've seen it's great that we can do all kinds of group by queries and pull data either from the database view or from our own link queries. We can actually put it into Excel so the user can download it and make it portable, take it with them to do further analysis and so on. But surely it's occurred to you, what about uploading data? Can we take an Excel spreadsheet with data as long as it's configured in the right way and simply upload the spreadsheet and have that data inserted? Of course we can, right? So we'll do a demonstration of that now, okay? We'll do a simple example first, right? One of the things that occurred to me, we've been playing around so far with our appointment reasons, right? Nice simple lookup, okay? I want to choose a simple example to do. So I'm going to upload data. So I've got this spreadsheet, so I'm going to make sure I download this. Okay, put it in my downloads folder over here. And I'll just open it up. And all it is, it says appointment reason in the header, okay, in the first row, workman's compensation. And you can see I got tired of making up new appointment reasons. So I did a drag and just reason 10, 11, 12 up to reason 40, right? Just have lots of data to upload. Okay, very simple example, but I just have basically a simple spreadsheet ready to upload all this data. Okay, so then following along in my copy-paste file, this is what we're going to do. Okay, come over to Visual Studio. All right, so I'm going to actually make a little form so we can select the file to upload. In truth is, I would probably like to do this on the appointment reason index view, but we don't have one yet. The reason I've been holding back on doing that, you might have noticed that there's a few different models we have in our system that we don't have any way to change data yet. One is appointment reasons, one is our doctor's specialties, right? Sorry, the actual specialties. You know, there are a number here that are what we would call medical trial. They're simple lookup values, right? So that's going to be the lesson next week is how can we, in an efficient way, rather than the boring approach of having a whole controller, right? Where you come in and it's just listing the specialties, right, that the doctor might have. And you go and you add one specialty and come back to the index listing just specialties, right? You know, there's a nice way to sort of combine all this common approach to handling these very, very simple entities, right? So sorry I'm mentioning it now, but I am, and that's coming up. I digress because I'm kind of talking about why I'm going to use the appointment controller, because technically it's reasons for appointments, but I don't actually have a controller for that yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the appointment controller, and coming down to views, I'm going to use the index for our appointment, right? So at the top, I'm going to put a little div here with a form in it, okay? So I'm actually going to replace my two headings that I have up here as well, right? Remember we added this the other day? I showed appointments between my start and end date and showed how many appointments. Okay, I'm going to incorporate that in this new div I'm putting in place. Okay, just because I'm using a container here, and I've basically got these headings at the left, and then I'm using this auto feature here to move my little input form over to the right, okay? Just taking advantage of some of our bootstrap that's available, okay? But I basically have a form here. The action is insert from Excel, okay, in the appointment controller. I will post, right? And basically have an input for type as file, so I can browse, find the Excel file, click this button to upload the data, right? So let's go to the appointment controller to see what we're going to do to receive it. So obviously I need to make a method or an action called insert from Excel. So coming in here, shrink everything down. It is public, okay? So I'll put it before any private stuff. Maybe I'll put it, doesn't matter. Throw it right here. Okay. Now, this is extremely simple, okay? Note, very basic example. I have no error handling. it assumes that duplicate values are allowed, okay, both in the uploaded data and the DB set, right? So we're not checking to see if this exists already or anything. This is just a simple example of uploading the data, sticking it in, right? Which is why we're going to come back and redo it properly in a minute. But I thought I'd do a very simple example first. So we call insert from Excel, and notice this, it's just an iForm file. It's just yet another file, right? Okay, so, but we're going to assume that we're only going to upload the right kind of file and everything else. It's all on the user to do it properly, okay? Just to keep the example simple. So we'll create an Excel package, right? We create a memory stream, and we grab our iForm file, the one we uploaded, copy to, okay, our memory stream, right? Then I create a new Excel package, pass it the memory stream, right, to actually build the Excel package itself. Then I open the worksheets, go to the first worksheet, okay? I define the start and the end by going to the dimensions of the worksheet itself. I prepare a list of appointment reasons, a new empty list, okay? And then as I step through the worksheet, starting from my start row to the end row, going one row at a time, okay? I'm just going to the cell now. I'm just moving row. I'm assuming it's all in the first column. So again, it does depend on that the arrangement inside your spreadsheet matches what you expected, okay? Because we have to know where to look for data. So I'm looking at for all in the first column, row by row, containing the value. So I grab the text of each cell, use that to build my new reason name, and add it to appointment reasons, okay? Then I can do an add range once I finish looping through them all, and then save changes, and then I'm just going to go back to the index, right? Simple as that. So does it work? Well, let's just give it a try. Now notice I'm deleting the database every time, which is what I want to do for now as well. So if I just come to appointments, okay? So there's my same summary information, the date range, the number of appointments. But over here, look at this, upload Excel file, new appointment reasons. So if I choose a file, come to my downloads, that's where I stored it, okay, new appointment reasons. Click upload data, there it is, okay? Now if I come to, let's go to a patient somewhere. I'm going to edit an appointment. Click the drop-down list, look at them all, right? So yes, I uploaded them all, including, see there's duplication, workman's compensation is there twice. That was the actual heading in my spreadsheet, right? It pulled the heading in as well, okay? So yeah, it did work, but it's really a quick example. But let's do it over again and do it properly this time. So bear with me. I just couldn't help myself. I first built it as a simple example, but it's not very real world. In a better demo, okay, we need to add, first of all, a unique constraint. I mean, you shouldn't have two values with the same name, reason name, right, for appointment reasons. So let me go into the model, no, in my DB context, my medical office context. I'm going to add a unique constraint. So we can't have duplication. We can't have two appointment reasons that are the same, right? All right, I'm going to put it here at the bottom. Okay. So entity appointment reason as a unique index on the reason name. So now we won't be allowed duplication. Now, of course, I need a new migration, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I will come here, I will delete my entire set of medical office migrations. Oop. I want to delete the whole folder, yes. I will come down, I will delete the database. And now I'm free to use my common commands, start a fresh set of migrations, so it will take the current state of everything, of all the design built into my models and the DB context and the Fluent API. It's kind of not a bad thing to do this every once in a while anyway, right? We'll start with a fresh set of migrations altogether. and it'll incorporate that new constraint that we put on there as well, right? Okay, good. By the way, just to share with you, instead of doing that whole thing, well, you should do it, but as a shortcut to help me get through and test, I could have done this as well. Remember we talked about this use migrations option? Remember how it works inside of the DB initializer? If this is set to false, let me bring up the DB initializer again for a second. I digress a little bit, but I think it's worth spending the time. Remember in this prepare the database section, what that does for us, okay, is we delete the database, and then if we aren't using migrations, it calls this line, okay, ensure created. What ensure created does is, as long as the database is not there, it basically on the fly creates the exact same code that we just did by adding a new initial migration, right? It will create its own migration encompassing everything in the design of the model, the DB context, and so on and so forth. It doesn't save it, just makes it, uses it to create the database, and it's done, right? So I could have just changed my option over here to false, bypassed migrations altogether, and it would have worked, right? But the better thing is to actually make the new migration, and away we go. But I just want to share that because that is a way as well, as long as you make sure you delete the database, right? Don't ever do this set to false unless delete database is true, okay? Otherwise, if it sees the database there, it says, okay, my job's done, right? And it won't apply any changes, right? So, yeah, that's a bit of a warning there. But it's a quick and easy way to, if you don't want to take time to make new migrations, that you can actually test a design change quickly. All right. So, I digress there. Okay, so let me go back now. Next time I run, it will apply the new migration. It will seed the data, and away we go. It'll create all my views and triggers and everything else as well. All right, so let me come back now to the views, the appointment index. I'm going to slightly update the code that I put in place here, because among other things, I want to give feedback right here on the page, okay? So I'm going to add this little div here, okay, class text danger, so it'll be red, and I'm going to use HTML raw, okay, to provide some feedback. I'll put it into temp data, right, so it'll be available here. And by using HTML raw, it means I can use some BR tags and, you know, kind of lay out the arrangement of this feedback into more than a simple comment, right? What else did I do in here? Okay, I also decided to show in view data, I'll show a comment on how many reasons for appointments are in the database, so I don't have to go and look. Okay, I can see right away how many there are, right? So a couple little changes there, nothing major or significant. Okay. I do want to provide that data all the time, though, so to add this in our view data, I need to make a change back in the appointment controller, right in the index action, right? So coming up to the index action, okay, I just want to add something additional into view data here. I'll just go into appointment reasons count, okay, put that with a string reasons for appointment in the system, and that will be at the top of the page just to give me that feedback. All right. So now let me come back down to my insert from Excel. Okay, this was that very simple version with no error handling. So I'm going to replace it with a much better version that would be much more acceptable in the professional world, right? Okay, lots of checks and balances here, right? Okay, so I prepared that feedback string that we're going to show on the screen before I do. So, of course, as long as the uploaded file isn't null, I'll come in here. I'll get the content type, the MIME type, the length of the file. I do another check to see if it looks like we have a file. And you notice that these are all ifs. So down at the bottom, you'll see I have different feedback comment, like no file uploaded, okay, if they didn't actually upload a file. File appears to be empty if there's no characters in it, okay. The next one is the file is not an Excel spreadsheet. Well, that comes from this if, okay, up here, right? If the MIME type doesn't contain Excel or the word spreadsheet, then I'm going to say, no, that's not an Excel spreadsheet, right? Depending on the version of Excel, it'll be one or the other, okay? Then we'd go into our Excel package. We get everything ready, our worksheet, our dimensions, and so on, okay? But notice I'm going to have two integers here, a success count and an error count, right? So I also check in the spreadsheet itself, remember, the upper left corner, cell 1, column 1 is the phrase appointment reason. So I'm using that as a check to make sure, yes, I've selected not only some Excel spreadsheet, but the one containing my list of appointment reasons, right? That's why this is in code here, right? I check that cell 1, the text matches appointment reason. If it doesn't, okay, then once more I'll give an if, right? You've selected the wrong file to upload. Remember, it must have the heading appointment reason in the first cell, right? Okay. All right. So then I start going through doing the same kind of thing, okay? Getting each one at a time, but I add it right away and save changes, right? To make sure I can actually successfully save changes. And I increase my success count by 1 if save changes works. If I jump into the catch block, it's because there was an exception. Remember, we now have a unique constraint. Okay, and I check if it's complaining that the unique constraint failed, then I'll add to my feedback, okay, record showing the reason name was rejected as a duplicate, right? Okay. Else, if it wasn't that reason, I'll just say caused an error, right? It wasn't could do duplication, but obviously for some reason it caused an error. This will probably never happen, but it's my paranoia that I usually try to include some kind of an else like that. Okay. And again, here's the trick to saving changes in a loop. We talked about this before. If there was an error, right, we have to make sure we remove it, or next time it'll still, okay, fail on a save, even if it's not the one we've most recently added. We have to remove it, or we'll keep getting the same error over and over again. All right. Now, if it wasn't a DB update exception, I've got code here handling. Maybe if it complains it's not the correct format, okay, the reason for name was rejected because it's not in the correct format, right? Or that the reason name caused an error, and away we go. Okay, so we have lots of feedback we can give for all the different possible things that might have gone wrong. At the end, okay, I put my feedback in here, right, with a BR tag, and away we go. And then we go back to the index when we're done. So let's see that in operation now. A bit more of a acceptable example of doing a upload like this. So if I come down to the appointments, right, notice that there's 6 reasons for appointments, because remember we deleted the database, so it's just the original 6 seeded appointments in there right now. So if I click upload data, okay, no file uploaded. If I choose a file, let's choose something that's not an Excel spreadsheet. I don't know. Let me find something somewhere. Got to be able to find some file somewhere. Okay. It's a file, right? Upload. That file is not an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. Choose file again. This time I'll go to my downloads. This is not the correct one, so I'll choose it. Okay. Upload data. You may have selected the wrong file to upload. Remember, it must have the heading appointment reason in the first cell of the first row. Okay. Good. Look at all these things I'm catching and preventing. So now I'll select the right one. Upload data. Okay. Ooh, there was one error. The record, workers' compensation, was rejected as a duplicate. Finished importing 37 records, 36 inserted and 1 rejected. So that's good feedback. And I see right over here, now we're up to 42 reasons for appointment in the system. Okay, so that's a bit better example. Now, of course, if I were to choose the same one again, they'll all be rejected as duplicates. So, yeah, okay. Maybe I should improve that feedback. Maybe that's a bit much to show all at once. But hey, what the heck? You get the idea. At least I didn't do any damage. I didn't hurt the data that's there. Okay, everything was rejected. Notice that. Finished importing 37 records. Okay, so maybe I should put a check there that if there's more than one duplicate, just give the summary. Only show that line. But I'll let you make that change to the code yourself. All right, well, that finishes step 20. So before I close this, let me go back to our home index. Just update. Yeah, I did step 20. So I'll save this. I'll get this posted. You'll have this whole code example, and away you go. Whew. All right, that's a marathon of lessons covered today.